Good afternoon. Welcome to Pantry's webinar on alternatives to layoffs and terminations. I have the magic bean here, and I know everybody just is dying to know in these times, how can I keep from letting my people go? Um, none of us have been through this kind of a thing in a long time because business has been pretty good. So today, let me remind you of some of the things that you can do in these times. My name is Kathy Graham. I am the head of Human Resource Services or HR Services here at PayEntry, and I want to welcome you to our webinar today. There are alternatives to terminations and layoffs, and I want to talk a little bit first, though, about what people are doing. You know, many companies are considering layoffs and terminations right now because they want to make it through this crisis. This isn't unlike anything we've ever been through before, and unless you lived through World War II, and maybe then that, which I did not do, maybe then you would be in tune with this type of crisis. But so during this time, cost-cutting reflexes are understandable. I mean, it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction to we're losing business, we have to lay off people. But those who manage to go through these economic crises in a clear and more compassionate way with their employees create far more value for their companies in the future. Um, you will gain a respect and admiration of your team, and you come out stronger than you ever have before. I know that we, as a team at PayEntry, have all been working virtually for 3 weeks, and I think we communicate better now than we ever have before. Um, so before you announce a layoff or termination, consider some other measures first. First, the rule there is in running your business in a time of uncertainty is to make sure you're communicating openly. Make sure everyone knows what's going on in the world right now. I'm sorry, everybody does know what's going on in the world right now. And don't force your employees to second guess what you're thinking or doing, um, and what's happening inside your company. Um, be honest about what's happening and make sure you share that with your team, all of your employees, because if they don't know, it creates fear. We have a regular chat with our CEO, Jeffrey, um, um, at 12:30 every day, and today we talked about the uncertainty of the future and the potential right now of whether or not we were having layoffs and things of that nature. He was very upfront with us, and everyone appreciates the honesty. Um, things depend on how long this lasts and how your business is impacted by it. So, but just make sure you communicate openly, honestly, and show empathy during this time. Everyone's afraid of what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. Ways to get your employees involved in these decisions. Sometimes if you can get employee ideas about how to trim costs, it can help your business overall. This is an ongoing effort, but right now, make sure if you have a suggestion box, you're using it for this. And you might want to create a focus group of people who might want to figure out where you could trim some costs within the organization. Ask if anyone wants to take an unpaid sabbatical. You want to take a couple of weeks off or a month off unpaid. You might be surprised how that turns out. All your involved employees is just like you know yourself. If you're involved in something, or you can get management involved in something, you've got their buy-in, and that's important in this time frame so that people work harder than ever to get the job done, and knowing that their thoughts and ideas are being shared. Layoffs should be your last option, um, because layoffs are often permanent. Consider a rolling layoff. I have a client now that's doing this right now in a vet's office. Um, she has employees working 1 week on and 1 week off. Because during that time, hourly employees don't have to be paid for time not worked, and salaried employees don't have to be paid if they don't perform any work in a work week. That's one thing you have to be careful about. is if a salaried employee takes a reduced schedule, you still have to pay them for the whole week because of the um, Fair Labor Standards Act and the rules that are in that act. So just make sure that, and this is a really easy one to implement, 1 week on, 1 week off. It does cut individuals' pay, but they can often go for unemployment benefits right now because of the changes in the changes, and they're more apt to be able to get benefits, even if they're working part-time or they're working a reduced schedule. As I mentioned, you might want to ask for volunteers to take an unpaid sabbatical. And I said you might be surprised at someone that wants to take you up on this offer. If it is one of your critical staff, obviously you're going to tell them, thank you very much, but we need you here. But you may be surprised that you get someone, and every little bit helps. And first thing that we can think of, or one of the things we can think to do, is reduce employee pay. You can consider decelerating pay decreases. For example, your highest paid employees, maybe your top management, would reduce their salaries, let's say by 10%. Then your mid-range salaried employees, you'd reduce by 5%. And then everyone else below that, 2.5%. So you've got a full workforce, but you have your payroll is decreased. Or you could lower the pay of your salaried employees, but remember not to go below the $684 a week minimum, because that is the minimum amount that you can pay someone and have them be exempt or salaried. Rules to remember when you're reducing pay, so let's make sure we follow the laws. Hourly or non-exempt employees have to be paid at least the minimum wage. So if you do decrease pay, you can't take it below minimum wage. Salaried or your exempt employees have to be paid at least $684 a week. And remember, if they work 3 days in a week, generally, unless there's some sort of a sick leave situation or whatever, you would have to pay them for the whole week, even if they're only there for 3 days working. In addition, you have to give employees proper notice before you reduce their pay. It is different in every state. I know in North Carolina, it's 24 hours. In South Carolina, it's 7 days. I only know those because I live in South Carolina and I work in North Carolina. So we will have to find that out in your state. If you can't find that information, please let me know and I will help you find it. By the way, I did put a copy of these materials, or this presentation, in the materials section on your screen. And if you can't find that or can't get access to it, let me know and I will I will send you one after this is over. Okay. And I will be answering questions at the end too. Okay, here's another one. This is a little bit trickier, but you can change your exempt or salaried employees to hourly for a period of time. That eliminates that minimum pay requirement of $684 a week. And if they work overtime, however, you have to pay premium hourly rate for that time. So if they turn into an hourly employee and work overtime, then you have to pay them for that overtime. But be very careful when using this approach, because if you do this a lot, it could void the exempt status of that individual or that group of individuals if this is done too many times. So I'd say once is fine. Also, you can look at reducing your benefits. Contact your 401k provider to see if you can stop your company match for a period of time. You can also allow employees or remind employees that if they need the money during this time, they can stop their contribution as long as they start it back up when the things are better than they are right now. That would avoid the match that you would be giving them on their dollars. Review all your other benefits, and if any of them aren't being used, then you may want to see if you can discontinue them temporarily. Other alternatives to layoffs and terminations, and I'm sure you've thought of these things, but first of all, eliminate non-essential costs immediately. Have your focus group look at what your focus group is saying. Can you cut back on office supplies or coffee runs? Are you bringing lunch in? Do you have any travel expenses you could get rid of? And I think that's probably the first thing good business owner looks at, so I'm sure you've done that. Trimming your overhead costs. Building maintenance expenses, machine leases, cut down on the number of days the janitorial services there, that kind of thing. And then consider creative approaches to your business model. We know now that Grubhub delivers. Many restaurants are offering curbside or takeout service. If you're a retailer, ramp up your online presence. And if you're selling a service, then maybe you want to sell gift cards right now, so that you would have money coming in, services going out later. Another resources, we're not going to go into detail because I've done a number of seminars on the two acts that just came out, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act and the CARES Act. In the CARES Act, there are um, there's a description of the loans that you can get. One is a paycheck protection loan through the Small Business Administration, and loan forgiveness is available on those loans. Again, there are tax benefits that you can take advantage of in the CARES Act. One is a retention credit, and another is delaying of your payroll taxes. So check out our website, www.payentry.com/COVID-19 for additional resources. Plus, if you have questions, which we're going to answer now, why don't you go ahead and we'll have questions. I'm going to open up the chat. So let's see, we have a few in there already. Is the $684 dollars a week gross pay or net pay? It is gross pay for salaried employees. The couple of people have said they don't see the slides, so I will send those to you after the presentation is over. I apologize. It shows that it's in the materials box, but I can't see what you're looking at, so I'm going to have to get somebody to tell me if I'm putting it out there incorrectly. So Maria wants to know what the tax department at Pay Entry is doing to track the new payroll credits. We have our development team working overtime on this. We have a meeting tomorrow, the staff does, to get an update on where they stand, but it's my understanding that they've almost finished, have finished with the new codes to track the paid time off that's been awarded because of one of these acts. And the I think the rest of it, the tax cut, or not the tax cut, but the tax delays, we are working on getting some instructions from the IRS on how that is going to be handled as far as forms go. Melissa says, I've been finding the salary pay minimum at $455. Melissa, I will send you a link to the 684. It did start on January the 1st of this year. So maybe you need to go back and do some adjustments. John wants to know, could voluntary cuts threaten your chances of having the PPP SBA loan forgiven? No, as long as I saw something today that says that it could reduce what's forgiven, but if you're trying to bring those people back using that loan, then it just depends on how many people you've let go. But the loan can be forgiven, and they can reduce it by certain things that occur during that time frame. Another, Jeannie says, if an employee opted to stay on prior to 4/1 on their own, do we have to pay them the 2 weeks sick leave? You can pay it, but it will not be reimbursed through any government agency. The benefit did not start until April the 1st, so if they were off before April the 1st, none of that time is paid time as far as the government's concerned. It is for April the 1st forward, so you do not have to pay them. Are bonuses included in the wages for the PPPP? Well, I am not a CPA, but I believe that all compensation is considered in wages as far as applying for the loan. Okay, since my business is completely shut down, I have nearly no money coming in. Seems like unemployment is the only choice right now. Coming back to work would be assisted by PPPP, it seems. Yes, it would. If your business has been impacted or you're shut down, applying for one of these loans is an option for you. And for your employees, if you are shut down or you can't keep employees around and there is a layoff, please know that the unemployment departments are absolutely working overtime and have increased the benefits that are available to your employees. With the existence of the CARES Act, and it added it added $600 to everybody's amount. Some people could be making actually more than they made when they were at work, which is really not a good thing, but I don't think they thought about that, about prorating it. So yes, the loans are a good relief. Anyone that applies for this loan, for the most part, will get it. It's at a very low interest rate if you do pay it back, or it can be forgiven after 8 weeks, I believe. Here's a question. If someone needs to take the emergency FMLA, do we still pay them the 2/3 of their salary? Only if it happened April the 1st or after. And that's after the first 10 days are unpaid, or you pay them the emergency paid sick leave that is offered by the government and the reimbursement that you would get there. Is there a difference between being laid off and furloughed with respect to the sick leave? Normally, the word furloughed means that it's temporary and you're continuing your benefits during that time, and it's a very short period of time. Layoffs can be permanent or temporary, but normally if you're laid off, your benefits don't continue. You're offered COBRA, and there's less of a knowledge about when you'll be called back. A furlough is actually like you're going to be off for 2 weeks, that kind of thing. And as far as the sick leave goes, it doesn't matter layoff or sick leave. It wouldn't be really either one of those, because if they're being paid sick leave because of the virus, then those payments would be made through the paid sick leave or the FMLA. Someone wants to know when we can apply for the loan. Right now. It started last Monday. I'm sorry, it started last Friday. And I know that people are lining up with applications right now. And you should go to your lending institution, ask them if they do the SBA loans. If they don't, ask for the recommendation for someone who does. And it says, are furloughed employees able to to receive unemployment? And yes, they are. They are, even though it is temporary. If they have, even if their hours have been reduced, they can apply for partial unemployment. So the employee needs to take the emergency sick leave, but before taking the emergency FMLA, that's the question. Yes, they have to take the emergency sick leave, which can be sick leave or it can be for childcare leave or for lack of childcare, before taking the emergency FMLA, because there's a 10-day unpaid waiting period for the emergency FMLA. So the sick leave comes before that. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to just close the webinar. Send your emails to hrservices@payentry.com. There are two HR people, and one of them is me. We answer your emails as quickly as we can get to them, and hopefully we'll be able to provide you, with the information that you need. If you didn't get it today, I'm going to send you this PowerPoint right after we discontinue the webinar. And hopefully, if you have any other questions, you will feel free to call me. That is my job at PayEntry, is to help our clients with their questions and their issues. So please don't hesitate to email me or call me. Again, thank you for coming today, and stay well and have a great day.